Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. This is the third of a series that I'm doing called Beginnings, and yes, thanks for joining in as it's kind of the beginning of my own journey on getting what I think can be a great help to people, getting it out to a lot of people. I think this series can be a great help to you wherever you are on the planet, and so. We're going to keep moving forward, and if you encounter some things in this video which are maybe a little bit difficult to pick up on, the first two you might want to view them. They will kind of help set things up. They're not long. Each of them is about 15 minutes, and some of what I say will make it a little more sense if you have seen the first two videos in the series Beginnings. So just imagine with me for a couple of minutes. In Canada where I live, there are quite a few areas where there are, in my mind, beautiful woodlands and lakes and rivers. And just imagine with me for a moment that someone were to give you, I don't know, 10,000 acres of woodland and lakes and rivers, and not only the 10,000 acres, but also some enormous sum of money, like $100 billion or something like that. And you were given this tract of land and told that you could develop it in any way that you wanted to, and that you were invited to take responsibility for everything that goes on that 10,000 acres. Well, this might be a little bit like what happens in the first chapter of Genesis, which we're looking at. I looked at it last video, but I want to finish it up in this particular video. So I'm going to read it. It's not long, and I'm going to read from a version called The Message, which was written by a gentleman named Eugene Peterson. It's a widely used version of the Bible. I think you might enjoy it. So this version of the second part of this chapter goes this way. God spoke, "Let us make human beings in our image and make them reflecting our nature, so they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of the earth." God created human beings. He created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. He created them male and female. God blessed them. Prosper, reproduce, fill the earth, take charge, be responsible for fish in the sea and birds in the air, for every living thing that moves on the face of the earth. Then God said, "I've given you every sort of seed-bearing plant on earth and every kind of fruit-bearing tree, given them to you for food. To all animals and all birds, everything that moves and breathes, I give whatever grows out of the ground for food." And there it was. God looked over everything he'd made. It was so good, so very good. It was evening, it was morning, day 6. And then the story concludes with God looking over everything he's made, being very happy with it all, and taking some time to celebrate and rest after his work of creating the world. So it's a very rich passage, and as with many parts of the Bible, it's very packed with all kinds of things, and I want to explore some of these things with you in this video. So the main thing I want to do in this video is think about people, and why is it that you and I are alive? Is there some kind of purpose, some kind of reason for for your being present in the universe and in the world. So this passage is a terrific way to try and find a response to that question. So I'm going to unpack a few things that are there in the reading, and here goes. So the first thing that we discover about people, and by the way, people don't show up in the creation story until everything is kind of laid out and ready for them. This is the world that God has made is presented in this chapter as our home, a place that is ready to welcome you and me to live well. So once everything is in readiness, God creates people. So here's what we discover about people and our reasons for being present in the universe. First, we are created, it says, in the image of God, kind of God-like. You're not God, but you're a little bit like God. So this is an important thing to know. Some people believe that they can do anything what they want with their lives, however wrong-headed it may seem, or however cruel it may be towards other people. But you and I are not present in the world for that kind of approach to life. You are meant to be a reflection of a good God. So that's one thing. The second thing you might notice is that God presents the world to the first people as an enormous gift, like that 10,000 acres, only maybe even bigger. So there's a giftedness to your being present in the world and being able to walk the face of the earth and to enjoy what's there. And it's not an accident that you are here, as some people, maybe many people, say they believe that life is an accident of different energies and powers and so forth. And I'm not saying those energies and powers don't exist. Of course they do. And our science folks explore them all, and they're doing a wonderful job. But it's no accident, that all these things are there, and that you have emerged in this world. So this world is God's gift to you. There's an incredible giftedness to being alive. And also, you may have picked up that we people are called to enjoy the blessings that God has placed before us, blessings that reveal themselves to us in our world each day. So those are sort of kind of some of the larger concepts, and then within that kind of a framework, there's some incredible blessings or words or purposes that are very clearly laid out. So God says to the first people, prosper, prosper in this world. He says, reproduce, so families, children. This is an incredible thing. He also says, fill the earth. So people were not just meant to live in the Middle East, for example, where this story first unfolded and was written down and written for the Jewish people, maybe around 3,500 years ago. Nobody knows for sure, but give or take a few hundred years probably. And so it's not just meant for people living in that little corner of the world, but we are meant to migrate and move out into all the parts of God's enormous world. So fill the earth and take charge. Don't be afraid to take charge of things and manage things. And some people have, I think, maybe abused some of this idea of taking charge, taking it to mean that we can do whatever we want, and even if that means causing a lot of damage, we can make profits and so forth. And I don't think that that's at all what's going on here. What's going on here is God is saying, take charge. This world is a gift to you. Manage it well understand it, treat it with care, and so forth. And there's a call here to be responsible to the world as God's creation, ultimately responsible to God. So there's this cluster of incredible purposes for being alive. So you don't have, just one or two meager purposes for being alive, such as, survive as long as you can and have as many enjoyable experiences as you can, go to as many concerts and, enjoy as many tasty beverages and so forth, and, hope that your life in the end is not too painful, your departure is not too painful, but that's kind of it, and that kind of encompasses your purposes for being alive. But the purposes that God has embedded, into your life and into the whole human race are just incredible. And many people have never read this or don't know it, but they are manifesting, they are living out those purposes all the time, even without necessarily knowing it. So those are the purposes that emerge from this text for your life and for mine. So what might that, how might that kind of impact, the way people think or approach life today? Well, there's different ways that people have approaching life. Some people approach life, through the eyes of Islam, which in many ways, some of them, kind of superficial and some of them not so superficial, but, there's a lot of similarities in the way Muslims and Christians and Jewish people look at things, but those similarities are a bit superficial when you go a bit deeper. And so, you can go to Islam and go to the collection of sayings or surahs, which make up the Quran, and you can read that as a way to approach your life, daily rituals and so forth, the prayers and the alms and these kinds of things. Or other people go to the Hindu writings and a lot of fantastical stories, but they do have meaning. Some people go to Buddhism and different paths, the Eightfold Path, for example, which is to essentially rein in your desires so that you can live a proper and not a totally disordered life. And many people also go to something that I call naturalistic materialism, which is kind of the sense that all that we see and can sense and examine and so forth, that really is all there is. And it's kind of a grim view of looking at the world, because it means that this life, the visible life, is all that there is, and that ultimately means that there's no justice for almost anyone, and it means that in the end there's only death and extinction, and that your life and all of life and all of the incredible hopes and desires that you have. For example, you might have a tremendous hope to reveal to your father your great love for your father, even though your father has passed away, he has died, but there were so many unresolved things between you and your dad. I have some of that in my own life for sure, and so all these things in the end amount to nothing. So they're totally unresolved, and in the end there's just extinction, and that all of this stuff and your life and the life of the entire planet, for all of its hundreds or millions or billions of years of history, will in the end amount to just an infinitely tiny speck in the enormous history of the universe. So it's kind of a grim view, and so I think that that Genesis 1 presents a way of looking at life that is just incredibly hopeful, that is saturated, with amazing purposes for your and my being alive, gives us something to run with, each day. So I want to end with trying to see how this might apply to our current situation, in which all over the planet we're trying to deal with COVID-19. And as I mentioned in my earlier videos, I think that that Genesis 1, the beginning of the Bible, presents us with a very hopeful way of looking at the world, so that we should be working with people all over the planet, towards a better and healthier future, and to try to overcome these things. So with respect to COVID-19, we can embrace, the working together to overcome this tremendous challenge that's facing people all over the planet. We are in that sense called to be a bit like God, to not be afraid to take charge, to try to find our way to a world where again we can all prosper, where the economy can pick up in a healthy way, and to respond to COVID-19 in a way where we take responsibility for each other's well-being. So hopefully that is something that is an encouragement to you, and that what is presented also in Genesis 1 is a tremendous source of hope, not only when we are in times of difficulty, but gives us kind of a foundation, a beginning, a grounding to move forward purposefully and intentionally, graciously, responsibly in all of life. So that's it for this video. Again, thanks for plugging in. Don't forget to subscribe and to like and all that sort of good stuff. And thanks for being part of sort of my beginnings into YouTube existence and to greater presence online. So hope the rest of your week goes great. Next week I plan another video as we move along through Genesis in the series called Beginnings. And in the meantime, be well and see you again.